Now it is hard to do one thing at once. We know this. It's why we have to pick that one thing and concentrate and focus on it as hard as we possibly can. When it comes to the world of sports entertainment or professional wrestling, you can pick whichever one you want. Sometimes wrestlers go, you know what? I'm gonna have 2 characters and I'm gonna have 2 gimmicks, and it blows my damn mind. And that's why today I, Simon Mellor here at What Culture Wrestling, are going to run you down 10 WWE wrestlers that played 2 gimmicks at once. Number 10, Bray Wyatt and the Fiend. The most easiest and obvious one, but hopefully it lets you know where we're going to go with this. But he literally plays 2 characters. Over here you have Bray Wyatt, the smiling, lovable kids TV host. And over here you have the Fiend, who is basically like some serial killer. He also has magic powers and can change people from the inside. Like recently he turned Alexa Bliss into a little girl and we don't know how. And if you just want to call him a psycho clown, that's fine with me. I'm sure that soon he's also going to prove that he's able to come back from being set on fire, which is a skill I'd like to learn. So if you have the secret, send it my way. And honestly, when it does come to this character or this kind of persona, it's just another one the WWE could have protected just a little bit more. I mean, we all remember what happened with Goldberg. This has kind of been a theme as well when it does come to Bray Wyatt. I don't mean that we should have done a better job in trying to push Husky Harris, but when it came to the original Eater of Worlds, well, we've talked about it before. And now that I do say that, technically, within this Fiend run, he has also been that version of Bray Wyatt. So if we're being honest, he's actually playing 3. Number 9, Kane and Corporate Kane. Staying within the realms of the supernatural, I loved this, even if it was the stupidest thing ever. I mean, I even went out and bought that. That's right, I contributed to it. I should be thrown into the ground. The story was ridiculous because it all stemmed from the fact that Stephanie McMahon had taken away his mask, and given that we had seen Kane burned and buried, it was just a little bit silly, but it did allow him to become the director of operations and Corporate Kane, a man who was a business person that went to the ring and wrestled in his shirt and trousers. Because why not? I did think he played both roles very well though, and of course in the background you always had the ominous spectre of Demon Kane, and you never knew when he was going to show his face or his mask. It also allowed Glenn Jacobs to evolve from a character standpoint, and when you've been around since 1997, you probably should do that. Number 8, Charlotte Flair the hero and Charlotte Flair the villain. I have joked about this time and time again on Ups and Downs, but here we stand in February of 2021, if you are watching this within that month, and I still have no idea whether Charlotte Flair is meant to be a good guy or Charlotte Flair is meant to be a bad guy. On Raw, recently, she even said on a microphone, "I'm not a bad guy," and even then I was confused. She also did this while she was yelling at her elderly father in the ring, and while I understand that Lacey Evans hasn't been too nice either, well, just none of it comes together. In fact, they're all terrible. And before this too, she was also teasing that she was only teaming up with her friend Oscar because she wanted a shot at the women's title. This doesn't sound like someone that I should have sympathy for. It's just weird, and it has been weird for ages, because WWE just can't make up their mind, which is when you get stuff like this. Number 7, Shawn Michaels and the Lone Degenerate. When DX did return in the mid-2000s as Triple H and Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid went and did something quite incredible when the game went down with an injury in 2007. Because he continued to be Shawn Michaels, but he also continued to be one half of Degeneration X, even though the other half was nowhere to be seen. Because before they were going to take on Rated RKO, Triple H was meant to take on John Cena at WrestleMania 23. He then did hurt his quad, and of course Shawn Michaels got drafted in here. It made all the sense in the world. From there, everything got muddled up, however, because John Cena and Shawn Michaels became the tag team champions, even though HBK made it very clear that I don't like you, John, and I think you absolutely suck. Shawn also didn't like the way that Cena had beaten his best friend at WrestleMania 22, so he was going to try and prove that he was the ultimate legend, and this guy was nothing but a rookie, and he was going to do that by wearing Degeneration X clothing, and sometimes even coming out to DX music, even though at the time, he wasn't part of DX, right? He was a pseudo bad guy here as well, given that he did want to avenge the loss of his friend, and yeah, he thought John Cena was rubbish, and this all came to a head when he lost at WrestleMania, and the very next night on Raw, properly turned on Big Match John. See? What a degenerate. Number 6, Mankind and Dude Love and Cactus Jack. So this breaks the list in many ways, but if we are going to applaud someone that's able to pull off 2, surely we have to applaud Mick Foley for pulling off 3. I mean, I can't even pull off myself. Not like that. The highlight of all of this is when he appeared 3 times in the 1998 Royal Rumble, and you know he did a great job, because nobody back then was going, well, this is preposterous, it doesn't make any sense. We were just all lapping it up. The best version of this is when he shifted into Cactus Jack and scared the absolute crap out of Triple H on SmackDown, who acted like he was able to see a ghost. But this is why Mick Foley was so good at it, he could just transition like this. And don't forget Dude Love Ever, who went out of his way to put everybody over. That was just some weird hippie guy. We also have to mention the progression of Mankind, who went from an individual that hung out in boiler rooms to becoming a proper good guy who won the world championship as thousands of people went, yes, my friend, you can do it. What a great trifecta this was. Number 5, the Hurricane and ace reporter Gregory Helms. I mean, what else are you gonna do if you're portraying a superhero? You need your alter ego? Good old Shane Helms. So soon after he had started wearing the green spandex and calling himself the Hurricane, which, never forget, fans totally accepted, Shane went back to the drawing board or the superhero cliche book and went, well, now I do need my alter ego, and of course I'll be the roaming reporter trying to get all the scoops. Everyone knew how silly this was, but he played it perfectly, and it allowed him to have segments with some of the top stars on the show. He a clever chap. It was just a bit of fun as WWE tried to find their way after the Attitude Era, and as we have brought up Shane Helms, he deserves more credit. I feel like he's vastly underrated. Number 4, Santino Marella and Santina Marella. The most infamous moment between these two characters happened at WrestleMania 25 when somebody had the great idea that Santino Marella in drag should win the Women's Battle Royal as his fake sister. We should never do this again. It wasn't Santino's fault because he was just following orders, and much like everything he was given, he just made it really funny. But yeah, once again, he just shouldn't have been winning matches that were designed for females. This also came during a contest where Molly Holly and Sunny returned to the company, but you would never know this because in one of the strangest decisions ever, nobody made mention of it, and then they just got tossed over the top rope. Still, it did mean that Santino had to be his own sister, and all you really need to do is go onto YouTube and type in Santino Marella's best bits and just watch it and have a good time, especially all that stuff he did with Stone Cold Steve Austin. It is the best. Number 3, Triple H the villain and Triple H the hero. Which means, yes, we're back to this, and it happened once again in the year 2000 with none other than Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Whether this was planned or not, I don't know, but within this period, not only was the game one of the best in-ring bad guys you could have hoped to have seen, but out of it, he was actually achieving a lot of sympathy because somebody else was trying to sleaze off with his wife. And it all did work because it helped Hunter to rise up the card, but yeah, Kurt Angle was trying to get in with Stephanie McMahon, and as we could all see this happening, and because it made Triple H very upset, it was a bit like, well, I know he does terrible things when he's wrestling, but nobody deserves that. So he was the ultimate asshole during matches, but he still managed to garner this reaction, even if one time he did look at Stephanie McMahon and say, look, you're important to me, but not as important as the WWE title. Never say that. Sadly, the story got cut short. We didn't get the ending that we wanted, but you can't say this didn't assist the man. Think about all the reactions he got in 2001, and then remember the mega pop he got in 2002 within Madison Square Garden when he came back from his quad injury. Triple H had made it to the top. Number 2, Bret Hart, the Canadian legend, and Bret Hart, the crybaby. Bret Hart is, was, and forever will be the best. He used to tell us this every single week, and I agree with him. I honestly think you could pick him up and plonk him into any era and he would find a way to make it work. And do not forget that in late 1996, he was revolutionizing the business with his kind of weird halfway here, halfway there character. Because he was going to be a good guy to the rest of the world, but he was going to be a bad guy in the United States of America. And the cool thing was, every single thing that came out of his mouth was bedded in the truth. He was just twisting it a little bit. In 1997, he had embraced this completely and blamed the company for allowing it to happen and said that it was the fans who had to take some responsibility because they had enabled it. And he never did this in a way that he just shouted, I'm the villain now. It was perfect. It was so well executed, ironically, that it was the definition of the whole shades of grey thing that WWE was going for at the time. And the real shame is that he wasn't allowed to be there throughout the late 90s. Can you imagine what he would have done? He would have smashed it. Number 1, The Undertaker and the American Badass. Now, I'm not talking about when The Undertaker returned at Judgment Day 2000 as the American Badass, because this transformation actually happened before we even got to that time. When he was having a conversation with Vince McMahon in 1999 and said, oh, I'm gonna leave your company now and not come back for a while because he had to go take care of some injuries, this wasn't the dead man we were used to. He looked like he was gonna go hang out with some Hell's Angels. The real bizarreness though came a few weeks before this when he was doing an in-ring promo with The Big Show. The Undertaker went on and on and on about he and the Giant had got on a couple of motorcycles and ridden through the desert and killed some kind of a snake. This went on for about 72 hours, and again, you're like, you're meant to be the Lord of Darkness. What the hell are you chatting? After the fact, I suppose it was to tease that he was going to be leaving the Phenom behind and becoming this American Badass character, but I didn't know that before we got to the aforementioned pay-per-view, so you could color me confused. It was like he was somehow stuck between the two, and his mind didn't know what to do. Also, as I always say, The Undertaker is a much better character than the American Badass. And now, I'm running away. Know of any other wrestlers that played 2 or maybe even more gimmicks at once? Make sure you let us know in the comments below, and then like the video, share the video, and subscribe. It's looking at you, it wants to be clicked. Then have it at whatculture.com where you can read articles like this. Go and follow What Culture on social media, they're everywhere, and watch more videos on YouTube. Look at them around my head. My name is What Culture, thank you for joining me as always. I'll see you on the next one.